All right, to do this next one here, we're going to go on page 45. And this is going to be our eukaryotes. So if it's not a prokaryote, it is a eukaryote. And eukaryote is sort of a weirdly spelled word. That means true. Karyote still means egg. So eukaryotes are true eggs, which basically just means they have a nucleus. And that nucleus was able to be seen under a microscope. So that is our first thing to know about eukaryotes. So eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles. And I said before that organelles are membrane bound, so this is sort of redundant, but it's easier if we just remember it like this. So they have organelles that are surrounded by a membrane. In particular, they have a nucleus. So the nucleus is the thing that we are often able to see under our school microscopes that would immediately let us know that we're looking at a eukaryote and not a prokaryote. Eukaryotes are fancy. They can be unicellular or multicellular. And we're going to start with a plant cell as our example. Oof. Thank goodness for erasable pens. So plants are often multicellular, but we're going to be looking at a single cell. And you picked up this sheet when you came in. It has two different cells on it. The one we're looking for is the one that is more square than round. So I'm going to cut these to separate them because we are going to be putting them on different pages. But we are going to start with the plant cell, which is the squarish one. And I'm going to put this in about the middle of the page. So like last time, I'm going to start just by taping two corners down. And then at the end, I will tape the rest of it. Hopefully I won't screw up like I did on the cell wall. That was embarrassing. Okay. The first thing that you notice about this cell is probably this big space in the middle. And that is one of the things that helps us distinguish between a plant cell and an animal cell. Both are eukaryotic cells, but this is a vacuole. So let's put that, we'll put it about right here. And the vacuole is a membrane-bound sac. And I'm going to put in parentheses here with an S because there can be more than one. And the job of the vacuole is that it stores water and minerals. So it's a membrane-bound sac or sacs that stores water and minerals. And that is this thing here. Seriously, the lights have to go off on me. Hold on a second. One of those things that doesn't happen when you have a bunch of kids in the classroom. Now, vacuoles are a membrane-bound organelle, So it's one of those things that's going to distinguish it between a prokaryote and a eukaryote. And so last time I used a star for all of the cells, all of the things that all cells have. Now I'm just going to put a plus mark, and that plus mark is going to let me know that that thing is a membrane-bound organelle. All right, the next thing in here is this round one. Now, if you put your plant cell in what I would have called upside down, this round one might be in this corner. That's totally fine. It doesn't matter where this is. We're just going to label it wherever you put it. And this thing here is the nucleus. And the nucleus contains the DNA. So this is chromosomal DNA. And unlike a prokaryote, the eukaryotes, their chromosomal DNA is actually in lines instead of in circles. So in the cell, we would have the DNA, and I'm just going to draw a few wiggly lines to represent the DNA that is inside of the nucleus. So the nucleus contains DNA. We've seen this before. This is a ribosome. And because I've defined a ribosome's job before, I am not going to write it again. Likewise, this outer layer is in fact a cell wall. And so I'm not going to define that one again. The thing about plant cells is they have a cell wall made of cellulose. So I am going to add that little addition. So cell wall made of cellulose. And when you eat plants, it's normally what gives the plant that crunch is the cellulose that's in the cell wall. Cellulose is a bunch of glucose molecules stuck together. And for example, when you eat celery, most of what you are getting in that celery is actually cellulose. And so it's cell wall. And our bodies can't break down cellulose. And so, well, it can, but it's not very good at it. So celery doesn't actually provide much use to you because the biomolecule that it's made of is not that useful to our cells because we can't get a lot of it in. Celery is also mostly water, like a lot of plant cells. All right, inside of this, there's this other line. This other line is the cell membrane. And we know that one's job, so again, I'm not going to write that one again. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this thing here or this thing here. Those are unique to plant cells. So if you think about what is it that plants can do that animals can't do, it's the chloroplast inside of the plant cell that allows it to have that function, and that function being the ability to make its own food through photosynthesis. So this is a chloroplast. And the chloroplast performs photosynthesis. And chloroplasts are actually really cool because they have a double membrane. So what that means is that there are actually two membranes surrounding this thing. So not only is this a membrane-bound organelle, but it has two membranes surrounding it. And the reason that it has two membranes surrounding it is we think that it actually started out as a prokaryote outside of the plant cell. So we think that it was like a bacteria that was floating around doing its photosynthesis thing, totally chilling, having its own cell membrane, and then it got absorbed or taken into a plant cell. And as it did that, it bubbled off a piece of the plant cell's membrane, giving it two membranes that surround it. So we think that that actually was its own living thing before it got taken in by a plant. And the plants that took in chloroplasts were able to make their own food, and they were able to outcompete any of the other cells that didn't take in a chloroplast. So that's my interesting fact about chloroplasts. Let's talk about this next one. This one with this weird wiggly line. That's my mitochondria. And you all know that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. But what does that actually mean? What that means is that it provides the energy. And if it's providing energy, it's doing a specific process, that process being cellular respiration. So the job of the mitochondria is to perform cellular respiration. Now, mitochondria also membrane-bound organelles. However, just like the chloroplasts, they have a double membrane. So just like the chloroplast, we think that the mitochondria were once their own, like bacteria, free-floating, doing their own thing, taken up by a plant cell, and that gave the plant cell the ability to do cellular respiration much, much, much more efficiently, and so it was able to, again, outcompete plant cells that didn't have mitochondria. Okay, we're almost done with this one. We've got one more thing to write, and it's one of those things that all cells have, and it is the cytoplasm. And that is our plant cell.